Well, thank you for joining us today for this city update on bylaw. I'm joined today by Councillor Rowena Santos, who is the chair of our Legislative Services Committee, and Councillor Dennis Keenan, who has been one of the most vocal voices in the city when it comes to enhancing the reach and enforcement capacity of bylaw. Representing Wards 3 and 4, we've had a number of issues surrounding academic institutions and student housing that is not safe. And thank you, Councillor Keenan, for being so robust in speaking out about the need to bring our properties into a legal framework. And of course, our Director of Bylaw, Robert Higgs. I wanted to have this conference today to update with you that we have listened and are responding to the concerns that we have heard. Last year, we did a resident satisfaction survey on every department. And the area in the city where there was the most concern, we took to heart, and that was bylaw. Concerns that there was not the prompt response to complaints, that there was a long list of issues that hadn't been resolved. And this ranges everything from cars parked illegally on streets to grass or garbage on properties that are out of control, to illegal basement apartments that have essentially turned into rooming houses. This council set about to change this. For far too long, we allowed this to exist in our city. We have a new Commissioner of Legislative Services and a new Director of Bylaw who are working on a mandate to clean this up, to make sure that these violations of bylaws are not, that we don't turn a blind eye to them, that we don't allow it to exist by a lack of resources. And I've heard that loud and clear in the city. I've heard our residents' frustration. That's why I'm pleased that at this Wednesday's council meeting, we will be bringing to our council for adoption the largest single-year expansion of bylaw services in our city history. I'll repeat, this will be the largest expansion of bylaw services in our city history. We're planning to bring in, through a budget amendment, 34 new positions, 34 new enforcement positions to make sure that those who are disrespecting their neighborhoods, who are not adhering to city bylaws, will not allow to get away with it any longer. I want to thank Director Higgs for taking this position on. Director Higgs comes from a background in policing. He started in February, this is pretty recent, and he did a deep dive into this. And so the recommendations that we'll be adopting, that I hope Council adopts on Wednesday, are based on his recommendations. These recommendations are about how we solve the growth and complaints that we've seen. 34 and a half years in policing. 34 and a half years in policing, superintendent of 12 Division, now our Director of Bylaw. We picked Robert for that skill set, that we believe he can clean up a department that we know we were not meeting residents' expectations. No one wants to see an overcrowded basement apartment that is a fire risk or a building code risk. No one wants to see that in their neighborhood, and it's why Councillor Keenan was so vocal when it came to the RRL about making sure that we don't permit these safety risks, these fire hazards in our community. It's why Councillor Santos has been championing this last term and this term, and I'm so pleased that we've had a consensus on our council to move forward with not just listening to the complaints, but acting upon them, making sure that we give Director Higgs the resources to do his job, to make sure our city bylaws are enforced. And so on that note, I'm going to ask Councillor Santos to speak about this in greater detail as the chair of the committee, and then after that, any of us would be happy to take your questions. But what this means, having the largest single-year expansion in bylaw services in our history, and why I believe it will lead to a level of customer service that we can be proud of in the city. That if you call bylaw for a complaint, that you know that it's going to be responded to in a diligent and professional manner. Over to Councillor Santos.
Thank you so much, Mayor Brown, and good afternoon, everyone. As Chair of Legislative Services, I want to really underscore my enthusiastic support together with Councillor Keenan. Both of us have been very vocal together with Councillor Power on the RRL pilot program and what that means in terms of resources, increased resources for bylaw enforcement to make sure that it is a success. So we definitely support the recommendations in the Enforcement Operational Review Implementation Plan that Director Rob Higgs brought forward together with our new Legislative Services Commissioner Laura Johnstone. Thank you very much. Our community has voiced significant concerns about bylaw enforcement and the adequacy, specifically the adequacy of our resources, and this plan directly addresses those issues in a very efficient way. The addition of 34 new enforcement officers is a critical step towards meeting our enforcement needs. That's 24 full-time enforcement officers and 14 part-time. The creation of a new supervisory roles and an increase in the fleet and technology equipment will enhance our capacity to respond effectively to enforcement challenges. We've heard from many residents about their frustrations with the current bylaw enforcement response times. For example, some residents have shared stories about complaints regarding illegal driveway expansions taking up to 2 years to resolve, leading to over 1,000 pending cases. Residents have also expressed concerns about the city's ability to handle simultaneous issues such as driveway persecutions and COVID-19 investigations or illegal parking infractions. The proposed budget amendment is essential to ensure that we have the necessary resources to implement all of these recommendations. And this initiative reflects our commitment to service excellence, equity, and accountability within our enforcement operations. Together with Councillor Keenan, I fully support the Mayor's intention to approve the budget amendment and look forward to the positive impact that this historic investment is going to have in our community. Together, we are making Brampton a better place for all. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, on that note, we're happy to take any questions that there may be about why the City of Brampton made this major expansion in bylaw services and what it'll mean for residents.
Hey guys, Grant Frisch from the Brampton Guardian. I'm just wondering, this seems, 34, this is a huge increase. So how did it take so long to figure out that this was a problem and address it?
Well, one, we wanted to get the right director of bylaw in place, and we've selected someone who is, his years of experience in policing make him not only a decorated officer, but I believe the right person at the right time to address what was a significant challenge in our city. And we've heard about it. Councillor Santos last term was probably the most vocal around the table about the need to really amplify the resources of enforcement to deal with some of these breaches in bylaw. The fact that Councillor Keenan was elected really on a mandate to rein this in, I think has brought us to a point right now where we're ready to act. And we didn't want to act blindly. We wanted to make sure it was based on a very thorough operational review. Now that that's complete and we have the recommendations before council, that's what we're doing. We're taking this operational review to council to be ratified on Wednesday, and I believe this will change bylaw and our ability to respond in a very significant manner for the better.
Okay, and follow-up is just, what's the cost of this? How much is the budget amendment?
So what is interesting about this is, obviously in the first year there's going to be a cost exposure to the city, but because of the fact that these are revenue generating positions, if someone is in breach of bylaws, there will be tickets. These positions should support themselves. We're prepared for the cost that could exist in year one, but these are positions that are not going to be a significant permanent cost on the city. It would be temporary in nature, and I actually hope that every neighborhood, the vast majority of residents are great residents, but there's always going to be bad apples in every neighborhood that don't adhere to basic requirements for building code or fire code or for the proper upkeep of your property. I hope with having the enforcement capacity that the complaints will go down, workload will go down. Once it gets out in the city, that we are prepared and ready to enforce, that could change the dynamic that we're seeing today. But this cost will be of a temporary nature in the city. These positions will in time support themselves.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor, how many, this question is for you and bylaw director, how many bylaw officer we have short here in the city of Brampton? And also there are many complaints against different councillors. Time to time we have seen that. And how you being a leader, how you make sure that those councillors are accountable? They visit the places, they are accountable to the residents when they voted them. So how you make sure of them, and how many are shortage of the bylaw?
So the shortage has been identified as 34. This is what we're hiring to meet the needs of bylaw. The operational review says we need 34 new enforcement officers, and that's the recommendation going to council that I'm enthusiastically supporting. And so there'll no longer be a shortage once this is ratified. This will give bylaw the muscle and the capacity to respond that we believe is so critical. In terms of everyone needing to meet a bylaw, that's a given. Whether it's myself or a councillor, everyone has to follow the city bylaws. No one should be treated differently. And I would note that in the instance that you're referring to, that councillor is fully paid up on the fines, and that's what we'd expect. In terms of the shortage, maybe Director Higgs can speak to his feeling on how this is going to change his ability to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly the shortage is a difficult number to get to. I would actually absolutely emphasize that the staffing is a very strong component of meeting the needs of bylaw, but in addition to that, we have to do a multifaceted approach of addressing our standard operating procedures. We need to look at how we can improve on efficiencies. This staffing model is actually a stabilization staffing model that I would hope to, in 18 months or 24 months, be able to give council the metrics that will actually show the appropriate staffing levels, which hopefully this is where we're at today.
Okay. Follow-up is for Councillor Keenan. We know that there is a residential bylaw violations, then City Act, when there is a commercial bylaw violations, and we are also working with bylaw director on some of the plazas. When we, as a media, got complaints, and we bring forward to the city bylaw, and it's almost 2 months. How many visits in the plaza as a councillor, Mr. Keenan, you have done in that plaza? Is that in your knowledge? Because bylaw director is working personally into that issue, and so far we have not able to recognize about that parcel, who owns that parcel. There are 11 units, but there is any single visit being a councillor because they are in your wards.
So if I could just start, obviously we have to balance privacy rights at the same time. I know some of the complaints that you've made about that property. I believe the director of bylaw is taking them very seriously, and in sort of generic terms, he can speak to our requirements on compliance and in terms of when tickets are issued. What I would say, before Councillor Keenan speaks, just how refreshing it's been since he joined council. I felt that this was not being taken seriously in wards 3 and 4 before. I've never seen such a motivation to amplify the reach of bylaw since he joined us at the council table, and it's so refreshing to have someone that is not prepared to turn a blind eye to our bylaws being ignored. And thank you for that, Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question. So on that property, yes, I did make a drive-by yesterday to the one that you're referring to. And when it comes to commercial plazas in general, I said right when I walked in, I took the first approach to College Plaza, which internationally has been the worst plaza in the city of Brampton, and we've taken steps there, not only with bylaw, with Peel Regional Police, but we've also taken steps with the property owners to fix and address those issues, which were far exceeding the issues and the property that you're talking about. Once you did reach out to me via message in regards to the property, I instantly got onto the director of bylaw, who informed me that you were already in communication with them and the steps were already were already being taken with that property, and in time, those issues will be addressed. And if the property owners don't address them, we as the city will come in and address them and just put the fine back on them. Thank you.
Just a general statement. We absolutely work. The goal is not. The goal is to achieve compliance in all of these properties, and we'll work in a fair and measured approach to get there. As long as we have willing property owners to continually improve the property and drive towards compliance, then we'll work with them and make this a safer community for everyone.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for being here today. As we're happy to announce the largest expansion of bylaw services in Brampton history, which will be going to council for ratification on Wednesday, which I believe will change the dynamic in our city in terms of resident satisfaction with the ability of bylaw to respond. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking interest. And thank you to Director Higgs, Councillor Keenan, and Chair Santos for their leadership role on this file.